It's a beautiful morning here at Cameron Lake on the Big Trestle at mile 14.6. I've been overdue for a hike here. It's been over a year since I was last here, so I'm so glad to be out and about here doing a hike from Little Qualicum River area at the east end of the lake to here and continuing on to the west end of the lake along the E&N Railway. No trains here since early 2002. That's 23 years and counting. But I love to hike here. It's still owned and held as a railway, so there's rails, structures, signs, all those kinds of things. But obviously, Mother Nature pushes back really hard. So I hope you enjoy this hike going on the north side of Cameron Lake from the east end to the west end. Thanks. Okay, let's take a look at the maps. Here's our overall location, Vancouver Island on the west coast of British Columbia, and the red circle is the area of my hike between Parksville and Port Alberni at Cameron Lake. And you can see the lake here in the middle of this railway map. My hike is on the north shore of Cameron Lake, shown here in the red circle. This is on the E&N Railway's Port Alberni subdivision, which snakes from Parksville on the right side to Port Alberni on the left. And the other subdivision that you see going up the coast is the Victoria subdivision on its way to Courtenay. Here's the close-up map of Cameron Lake, the railway in black on the north side, and on the bottom side of the lake is Highway 4. Here's my starting point, shown in red on the right side. It's the parking area for Wesley Ridge. It's mile 12.35 on the subdivision. My hike turnaround point near the left side of the map is about mile 16.7 at the west end of the lake. And the Big Trestle where I recorded the opening of this video is right here, roughly the middle of the lake shore. So here is my hike in red. It is 4.35 miles each way. That's 8.7 miles return. Works out to be about 14 kilometers. And it took me 6.5 hours. It was really hard going because of the terrain and all the obstacles. 7:15 a.m. Time to start my hike. Here's Little Qualicum River. This is a nice, simple bridge. I'm alongside the Little Qualicum River. It's just below me on my left. And that outlets from Cameron Lake. And we're coming up to the east end of Cameron Lake pretty soon. Here's the switch stand for the east end of Cameron Lake siding. Here's the frog up ahead. And we're coming into the open area by what used to be the Cameron Lake Station and Chalet, and now is a private cabin area. Here's the private crossing for the Chalet property. There's a view of the lake behind the cabins. Up ahead there's a couple old cars, looks to be a water car and a few other things, and the story I've heard is just that they were privately owned and left there. I'm not sure who, but they're always here. Here's those cars along with the station sign for Cameron Lake. I love it when railway signage still exists, reminding me this is still held as a railway, even though no train action for 23 years. The siding continues into the woods. I'll follow the main line. I've been coming to this area since spring of 2019, quite frequently in the first few years as I enjoyed exploring the old trestles that are up ahead, but less frequently in recent years, mainly because of the problem broom and the ticks that they hold in the summertime. So the last time I was here was 15 and a half months ago. It was November 2023. So I'm expecting there to have been changes, some windfalls, some of them already cut up and cleared by good recreational users, rockfall, and a continued deterioration of the trestle decks, and also a continued encroachment of the vegetation, always pushing back. That's why I do these hikes. I love to see how nature pushes back and things change over time. Siding continues through there beside me. This gives you an idea of the encroachment. Vegetation left unchecked. Here's the switching gear for the west end of the switch. Just lies in through there. You can see the length of the ties suggest the switch was here. So this is right around milepost 13. The post has been missing for a long time. I'm not going to see very many posts today, just one full post if I'm lucky. I like this. It's a rock wall to protect against little small rock slides. It's essentially rocks that have fallen before in chicken wire, making a nice wall. There are various areas of supplies or leftover items or junked items, such as this pile of tie plates here. All sorts of piles, most of them covered with moss now. We'll see these more than once on our hike today. Here's a simple windfall that I did the cross under method, thanks to the various people who've limbed it. The lake is down below. Highway on the other side, I can hear that. Working my way towards my first of the Lakeview trestles. This gives you an idea of the grade. It's a bit built up beside, just enough for some old ties, and then it drops off down to the lake. And there's a bit of space, and then it goes up a cliff. So not much space to do anything other than a standard gauge single track. So that's what this mountain section is like. Slope steep on my right side and drop off steep down on my left. Here's another area where old spent items are left. A bunch of grease cans, a whole bunch of them through there. And some joiner plates and some old signposts. Oh, those aren't joiner plates. Yeah, joiner plates and a few other thingies. Here's a landslide, maybe about mile 13.6. Right in an area where we've got some rails stored there. Oh yeah, so we'll walk around through the rail area and get an idea of what this looks like. I can see a big rock up ahead. Here's a sneak peek at how big that rock really is. I'll get to it in a moment. But first, because this is a big event in terms of the size of that rock and some of the damage, here's the map view. It's about mile 13.5 by my estimation. So we're still near the east end of the lake. And backing up a bit, here's my view as I walked up to the scene. The damage and the extent of it isn't quite apparent yet until I get closer. By the way, I wasn't able to determine if any rail had been broken at this one, but to foreshadow, there is a significant rail break later on in my hike. Okay, let's go through the path. I'm not the first person to take this diversion. These trees got pounded by the slide. Oh yeah, big rock. Here's some wide angle video on my cell phone. Standing in the middle of the tracks. No, I'm not. I'm standing beside the tracks. Hard to see. Now I'm in the middle of the tracks. There's the big rock. This guy's big as well. And what's it like behind me? Some more rocks right there. And some trees. That's the rail stockpile area with trees that just got knocked down. Easy to walk through. Thankful to others who have shown the way around. And here are a couple wide-angle photos to show you the extent of the scene. Okay, continue my way through here. Oh yeah. This guy's big. Let's carefully walk by this guy. Oh yeah, watch my footing, Mike. It's a good chance to show you a few vertical views of the extent of the slide. Note the rail at the bottom of the frame. Okay, I put the camera away and walk carefully. Okay, I'm on the other side. That slope has more to give for future rainstorms. But yeah, I came through here. All right, let's see how many more of these we have today. This is what the Broom is often like, this area, north side of Cameron Lake. Sometimes you can walk around it, sometimes you just have to walk through it, up to your face. And we're coming to the Trestle. Here's the mile 13.7 Trestle. I remember the first time I saw it, 6 years ago. It was a spring hike, and I came in the dawn darkness of the morning and came upon this. It's deteriorated since then. The deck, the ties are just disintegrating, and one of the fire barrel platforms on the right side fell or was pushed. But here's an idea of how these trestles work. First of all, 4 rails. The inner set is a guard rail. It's called the Jordan rail, and that is so that if a rail car derails while it's on this trestle, the wheels will get caught by the middle set of rails and it'll prevent it from falling off the structure. You'll see these on almost every railway bridge and trestle. So the structure down below is timber frame. Hard to see here. It's a series of timber frame bents. That's what we call the sections. And then lying parallel with the rails are big, thick stringer beams, and you can see them here. And then on top of the stringer beams, crossways, are placed the big bridge timber ties. And that's what's disintegrating. And then on top of that is what the rails are hammered onto. So you walk over top of the thick stringer beams, and like right here, there's my boots. You can see how thick the beam is there, and that's how you handle the areas where the ties are all disintegrating. You walk on top of what's stronger below, and you still be careful because of just balance. And occasionally you come here to this side. because there's a photo opportunity. Like here. And the photo opportunity is diminished every year because of the tree growth. Here's some wide angle video. Again, you can see that below me is the thick stringer beam. There's another view of the stringer on the other side. And that's one of the old fire barrel platforms. There were two. Back in June 2019, I spent some time here on this trestle in the evening to get a setting sun shot. That photograph is going on to become used quite often in railway advocacy groups. But because I was in one place at dusk for over half an hour, an animal found me, and a cougar made its way down the slope slowly. I didn't realize it was a cougar at first. I thought it was a deer taking an awful long time. And I saw it at the end of the trestle, just beside the trestle. I yelled a lot, and it went down below the trestle, down to the lake. And I decided it was time to pack up and go, and not stick around to try some astrophotography from the trestle. Since then, I've realized that just staying in one place for a prolonged time out at cougar country, especially dawn and dusk, is a bad idea. So I practice the keep moving method. That's my story. Late June 2019. No photos. The ties are pretty shredded here and invisible. Yeah, that's where I just came from. So the cougar came down here at the end. I was in the middle of the trestle. I felt a bit safe, just in case the cougar had a fear of railway trestles. Joking. I had my bear spray with me. Here's a bit of land that I'm on, and then the next trestle, mile 13.8. Short, poor condition, nothing exciting. Okay, I'm at the end of this. There's the wooden abutment. There's the second trestle, and the first trestle way beyond that. In the morning light here above Cameron Lake. Working my way westward along the north side of the lake. Oh yeah, nice. Here's the mile 14 trestle. Simplest one on the hike today because it's straight and in relatively good shape up top on the deck. And I believe that's because last time it was redecked, it was done with treated timbers. Yeah, they used untreated timbers for some other ones. I think this is back at the end of the Canadian Pacific era. And just a reminder of what a trestle could be. This is the third of 4 Lakeview trestles on the hike. And of course we started out with a classic railway bridge at the start of my hike at Little Qualicum River. Comes out the culvert. Nice simple trestle. There's a view of that water coming down the rock. But more importantly, here's a view across the lake. Highway 4 is across the way. Nice cloud, low cloud at the top of the mountain. Lovely quiet morning. Alright, let's continue railway west into the weeds again. Yeah, this is what it's like pushing through the broom that's thick in the middle of the track and taller than me. Just think of all the ticks you'd possibly get on you if you did this during the warmer months. and suddenly you can walk along the side for a brief moment. My sarcasm increases the more I spend in and around this broom. Have you ever thought of turning this into some sort of emergency road for vehicles? Yeah, take a look at this. Slope down to the lake, slope giving way here, and slope with things falling down on this side. Narrow slope, gradually giving way. Just barely enough room for a standard gauge single railway track at the best of times. I love this spot, mile 14.6, one of my favorite places on Vancouver Island. This is the big Lakeview Trestle. East end of the trestle. There's the top. That's the top of the bent, and it's called the cap. Going parallel with the ties, and above that the big thick stringer beam parallel with the rails, and above that the disintegrating ties, and above that the rails. Their anatomy of a disintegrating trestle. Not going on this platform. That's how far I've come. Let's keep going across carefully. I'm above the stringer beams. Being careful. Watching every step is kind of important. As well as just being comfortable, knowing what you're comfortable and able to do. And knowing where you've been before. And still respecting the risk. Alright, let's go down onto the stringer beam. Starting to get a little bit worn on top. There's the other stringer beam. I'm happy with my body of photography and video work over the last 6-7 years here, so I can just cruise through here relatively quickly and note any changes. What a lovely place. This area here I also enjoy for the view. Yeah, nice. Well, that's it for part 1. Tune in to part 2 when I continue on westward to the far end of the lake and I find some interesting new carnage caused by a bunch of fallen rocks and trees. I'll see you in a few days. Thanks for watching. God, I love this place.